That's the 45th and now 47th President of America, Donald Trump, has taken the oath of office, delivered his opening address, you would say, because it's a precursor to what his presidency is going to be like.
Indeed, Bongu, and quite a lot being stated there. Among them, what piqued my interest is the decision to revoke the electric vehicle mandate by Biden. So quite a lot we've heard of what Trump intends to do on the first day in office.
And talking about declaring a national emergency at the southern border, directing members of cabinet to defeat the rapid inflation and bring down the cost of prices, ensuring that they're going to overhaul the trade system to help families and also making sure that they're going to tariff and tax foreign countries in order to enrich American citizens, he says.
And we also heard a Trump that is more softer in his approach, saying that his proudest legacy this time around will be that of a peacemaker and a unifier. It was quite interesting to hear that from him, but most certainly has played a role, he has consistently stated, in what we're seeing now in the Gaza peace or ceasefire deal that we've seen.
And especially because even yesterday when you listened to him at that event, that pre-inauguration event, he was talking about the fact that many people in his previous term did not want to be associated with him, but now everybody wants to be his friend. So quite an interesting take there from the now US President, Donald Trump.
Indeed, very interesting number of statements that we've heard from Donald Trump. But just to rope in our editor here, international news editor, Sophie Mukwena, just to share your views, Sophie, on what we've heard thus far. Quite a lot. A lot of those executive orders coming into force soon enough. He's talking about their sovereignty as America will be reclaimed. The priority for the nation is becoming a proud, prosperous and free nation. Question being, were they imprisoned?
Well, I think there is nothing really new in terms of what he said. When you look at all the campaigns, when he was addressing Americans, he is now saying, I am implementing these issues, starting with the issue of immigration, the thorny issue of ensuring that you deport all those who are in America illegally, and characterizing his tenure, this new one, as a golden age or going to be a golden age. Those were the opening words, and he also ended with that golden age. America First is still the slogan and the vision, and also, you know, but I think trying to be a bit inclusive, because many people have criticized him as someone who doesn't care about other Americans, where he's talking about race, religion, creed, black, and even evoking Martin Luther King Jr. on this day where the Americans are observing the day, trying to project himself as someone who is not perhaps racist or doesn't care about the other Americans. And also talking about the issue of reversing the green policy in terms of clean energy. Drill, baby, drill. This is not something new. On the issue of inflation, trying to win the hearts and minds of ordinary Americans, saying that he is going to ensure that he brings down the cost of living. And then building and manufacturing. Oil and gas, we are back there, and the exporter of energy to the world. I think trying to take on Russia. And also other issues, the external revenue service for me. You would recall within SARS in South Africa, you know SARS rogue unit. We are told that it was not a rogue unit. The intention was to ensure that you deal with external factors in terms of revenue collection. He is going to focus on that.
Yeah.
So yes, and then of course the issue of protecting America. And let's hear perhaps what Shawan had to say on other issues.
And quite interesting, Shawan, as we bring you in here, you know, Sophie talks about more of a return to pretty much the same. The Remain in Mexico policy set to return expeditiously.
A policy agenda in many ways that seeks to undermine many of the people that were sitting just behind him as he spoke at the podium. When you talk about a national energy emergency, revoking the electric vehicle mandate, we are seeing reports that the Trump administration has taken a decision to withdraw from the Paris Climate Change Accord. So we are seeing a reboot of some of the actions he imposed on America and the world in his first term. And though this was a sort of demure-sounding Donald Trump, this was not the aggressive sort of tone we heard during that first inauguration speech. He is certainly seeking to undercut many of the things that Biden has implemented over the last 4 years. And I think the nuance to take away here is that we are seeing as one administration now turns to another and then another, one administration is seeking to really essentially undercut the policies and implementation of policies that have just preceded them. And that just leads to chaos in American government. Some policies take years to implement. And so if you have this sort of choppy waters of change, nothing really gets implemented, and that really undercuts what government is all about. Let's just go through, as Sophie was saying, the golden age of America, he said, begins now. From this day forward, the country will flourish and be the envy of the world. We won't allow the country to be taken advantage of anymore. He talked about various executive orders. Key among them, a national emergency at the southern border that you were referring to. All illegal entry will be halted. There will be a return of millions of criminal aliens, to quote the president, from whence they came. He will reinstitute his Remain in Mexico policy, and for the first time in American history will send American troops to the border to impose this domestic policy. There will be legal questions about that. There will be legal challenges to that. You will be hearing lawyers. This is a good day for lawyers in the United States because they're certainly going to have a lot of work. He's also going to declare national energy emergency. We will drill, baby drill, as Sophie was referring to. He talked about liquid gold mines under our feet. We will revoke the electric vehicle mandate. I mean, must be hard if you're sitting at the United Nations in New York, Antonio Guterres, listening to how globally the Trump administration is essentially talking about drilling for fossil fuels when the United Nations and many of the countries around the world are talking about moving more to renewable energy. He talked about overhauling the trade system, tariff and tax foreign countries to enrich the citizens of America. He's establishing an external revenue service to collect tariffs. He's establishing a Department of Government Efficiency that is being run by none other than South African-born Elon Musk. He is going to sign an executive order to stop government censorship and bring free speech back to America, which will be a point of contention because many will argue that free speech didn't disappear in America. And so there's a plethora of executive orders here that we are going to take some time to digest, but certainly putting his thumb up the scale that change is upon us, sweeping change is upon us in America. And that is certainly we're going to have to see how implementation works because we've got a lot of ideas, a lot of perspectives on the table, but we don't know what implementation looks like. And that's where the detail lies.
So if it's quite interesting there, what Shawan says around the sweeping change, that we get a sense that most of these policies will be inward-looking, more about placing America at the center, as we've heard, even there with the tariffs, that you're going to have foreign nations being taxed because this will be at the benefit of America and its citizens. Most certainly, one wonders how other nations would take this type of a speech where it seems as though the global world has been excluded to a certain extent from this speech, more inward-looking as stated.
Well, I pointed out earlier on that perhaps the first term, the world was shocked. But this time around, I think many countries, whether you talk, business, they have factored in the kind of a person that they are dealing with. And as I pointed out, when you look at what he is saying, people already know that this is his position. And I think other countries will find a way to navigate these challenges. For example, much as he wants to make America a mighty nation or country, in this day and age, there's no way a country can be an island. And therefore, some of these issues or some of the proposal or the intentions will not be possible to implement. But this is Donald Trump. And as Shawan pointed out, the demeanor is different, but it is still Donald Trump that we know. And of course, for example, there's a lot. When you say that they are going to change the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, we've had this before, even talking about Canada in terms of tariffs, imposing 100% tariffs on certain countries. And also the trade war between China and America is still there, him talking about how China is running that Panama Canal. And then the other issue is, I think on the issue of gender, you can imagine women and other groups how they feel after that statement, saying that you only have two genders, male and female. And therefore, it's not new, but yeah, it reminds us who is Donald Trump. And Shawan is correct, reversing what perhaps Joe Biden has done. But as you pointed out, it will take time because he will sign those executive orders, but implementation is going to be a challenge. And you only have 4 years, you know, unlike other countries like South Africa, 5 years and others more. 4 years is quite short, but it's going to be a rocky 4 years.
And Sharon, it's all good and well to talk about all of these, you know, executive orders, to talk about all of these changes and everything that you still want to do. But America is quite divided, especially when you listen to him talking about the Black and Hispanic communities. You listen to how he brings in the issue of race as well, saying that they'll now be looking at forging a society that is colorblind and merit-based.
That, I think, falls into place as a fait accompli if certain things go well in a country, right? As much as we want to talk about, you know, executive orders about affirming, you know, the two sexes in our society, Donald Trump, you know, sort of nodding his cap to Black and Hispanic voters whose share of support increased for his presidency in the last election. I think his big bet is that if things go well economically, if as is envisioned, excuse me, the Republican House and Senate is able to pass a massive tax cut for all Americans, if, you know, baby drill results in energy prices coming down. He's talked about an executive order that he will order all government federal agencies to work to lower inflation. If the economy does well, then all the other things kind of have less priority in terms of race and gender and all those other things. If people have, you know, disposable income, if they're able to save as a result of economic policies, then certainly, you know, the electorate can shift in a direction because, as Bill Clinton's advisor during the 1992 campaign said very clearly, it's about the economy, stupid. That is essentially what drives voters to the polls. And if so, the price of eggs can come down and the price of gas or fuel can come down. Travel costs can come down as a result. There will be a good sense of how Americans are feeling, and that can benefit incumbency, or whether the minutiae around sexual identity and all these other issues, these social issues that he's referring to, really will take a back seat if people are feeling good about life, their day-to-day, their schooling and that kind of stuff. And so, you know, everything is very connected here in terms of how this country will move forward and whether the Republican majorities in the Senate and House and the White House will be able to produce success. You know, Donald Trump, as you mentioned, talking about being his legacy, wants his legacy to be about being a peacemaker and a unifier. It shouldn't be lost on anyone that Donald Trump has made it quite clear that he's very keen to win the Nobel Peace Prize. And if he can end the war in Ukraine, and if we can see benefits to the ceasefire deal that moves to a second and third phase and maybe a lasting peace between Palestinians and Israelis, that might still happen. And so many things at play here as he begins this 4-year term, but, you know, governing is a different ball game to campaigning. And so that's where the proof in the pudding will remain moving forward.
And then, Sophie, your final take on just that important point around the caution there, that around the social engineering, where you're having many that would seek to benefit on race or gender, as stated.
Well, I think as Shawan pointed out, these are some of the issues that are likely not going to be a priority. But as you know, I mean, look at what happened in South Africa last year during elections. The outcome of the 2024 election, it was because of the economy. And if you get the economy right, these other issues are not going to be a stumbling block. But I want to return to the issue that he wants to be a peacemaker. You would recall, Sha, when you spoke to the South African diplomat in Washington, who said, we are going to ignore where we differ, but focus on where we agree, the issue of ensuring that all these conflicts, we bring an end to these conflicts. And I think he's targeting the Nobel Peace Prize. I was talking to someone asking South African delegation whether they are going to meet the Ukrainians on the margins of World Economic Forum. And somebody said, Sophie, with Trump in place, yes, we can still play a role, but our role is going to be minimum because he's going to power ahead to ensure that that war is at an end. And he would want to take glory. So I think those are the things that we will be watching in the days to come. How is he going to engage President Vladimir Putin? Because he has already indicated that he's going to call him and talk to him, and he will do the same with Zelensky.
A lot of focus, as Sherwin says, is also going to be on unpacking a lot of what was said tonight, and also look at the man that is J.D. Vance, who's also the vice president. As Sherwin says, what becomes the next 3 years? How do you begin to shape things ahead of the next presidential election? But thank you so much to both of you. That's where I leave it for this evening.
Enjoy your evening, Bongiwe. Indeed, thank you very much to you, Sophie, for joining us this evening as we build up to that swearing in that we've just witnessed, as well as Sherwin Bryce Peace, who's in New York for us.